Hello, world, and welcome back to the Millennial Outliers podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Justin Deal, with my right-hand man, Tyler Ardron. What's up, big guy?
Yo, what's up, bro? Back in the booth.
We are back. We have a special episode, as always, for you guys. I have a very good friend of both Tyler and mine, good friend, Jackson Milne. Big dog. Welcome to the stage. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me today, fellas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, dude, guy is suited up, looking good.
Yeah, just impressed today for you guys.
I love it.
I love it, man. We appreciate the extra effort.
Too bad Justin didn't get the message.
Nah, that's, you know me. It's, unless somebody's getting married or buried, you're not going to catch me in a suit anytime soon. So
You got the fresh haircut, though.
that's one at least. I know I had some handsome dudes in the studio today, so I had to look the best that I could. Yeah. So let's kick it off with first, because I always make fun of you for this. What is your actual first name? I have you as Jackson Milne, and then you went and named your kid. It's like I'm so confused.
Yeah, no, that's a great first question.
Yeah.
So I have to explain this a lot. So my name is John Paul Milne. When I was a little kid, I went by John Paul, but my dad's name is also John Milne, and my grandfather went by Jack Milne. So quite literally, I'm Jack's son, so that's how I got the nickname Jackson. So it's really a family nickname.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's kind of cool.
So Jackson actually isn't even a real name of
Anything
yours.
associated with you.
Okay.
Nothing. So, it was a family nickname. Parents, sister called me Jackson. They would hear me on the soccer field and the baseball field. Friends of mine would hear my parents calling me that. So they started calling me Jackson as well. So I, just kind of adopted it. And now I'm 40 years old, still going by Jackson.
Man, 40 years
I
old.
actually never knew that either. That's a great first question.
Yeah,
there,
I was
Justin.
thinking that on the way because that's how I always introduce them. Jackson John. It's tongue twister as well, which makes it fun. But we always like to start. Actually, I love that was a family story to kick it off. But I like to always take people back first because I feel like we have to understand your past, to understand your present and your future. So tell us a little bit about the family dynamic, what your parents did growing up, maybe some just lessons you learned through them, through the years as you were a child.
Yeah, so I grew up in Blackwood, New Jersey. Had a pretty picture perfect childhood. Dad was in the car business for General Motors for years. Mom was a pediatric nurse. It was just me, them, and my sister. I had an older sister, 18 months older, Michelle. She actually unfortunately passed away a few years back. But it was a picture perfect childhood, honestly.
Yeah. What'd your parents do for a living growing up?
So my mom was a pediatric nurse.
Okay.
At Jefferson Hospital, Jefferson now today. So that's nice to have too with my two children. Being able to
be calling them every other month.
Yeah, every other day right
week.
now.
I was just saying every other week. Yeah.
So and my dad was in the car business. So my grandfather actually owned car dealerships. So he was very entrepreneurial, owned a couple of car dealerships. My father got into the car business because of him, obviously, and then so he was parts and service manager for years for General Motors. Yeah.
So you got the kid taken care of, and then you get your issue with your car. You got him. You could probably call.
Exactly. Well, it's funny. So everybody would always joke that we always had Chevrolets because my dad worked for General Motors, and so we had Chevys our whole life. So it was a big treat when
you don't drive
finally.
a Chevy now, though. I don't think, do you?
No, but I got a GMC actually right now. So I'm back in the family.
Stay in the roots, baby.
In the family,
There you go.
That's great. So a lot of service then, I would assume, especially from your mother's side. People who are, God bless all the nurses and everybody who's in healthcare in general. I think it's a very selfless thing, especially having young kids. I'm sure she saw some crazy things that are tough to not bring home with you. But it gives you great perspective in life and things to be grateful for.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your family as well. How many kids you have?
Yeah, so got a amazing wife, Lindsay. She's a hairdresser. We have a salon, based out of the house, and she does a lot of hair there. I have a 4 and 2-year-old, both boys. So our house is always crazy. WrestleMania, 7 days a week.
Feel you.
So also coaching Little League right now. So it's,
I'm with you.
Yeah, coach pitch.
I think we talked about that.
We
right?
did, yeah. So that's
your
that's a lot
coach
of
pitch
fun.
though.
So it's T-ball, but we do coach pitch. So we do anywhere
T-ball.
between 3 and 5 pitches, and then we'll move over to T. So that's fun. It's fun. Coaching my own son. It's fun coaching the other kids.
With Mantua, right behind across the street, right? Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So it's fun. I think the biggest battle with that is finding the time to be dad on the baseball field and coach with the other kids at the same time. So like that was the biggest challenge. Where it's a lot of fun, but having my 4-year-old sharing dad now with the other kids, I think he struggled with that. So I have to, kind of figure out where's that right balance.
Even like saying, like telling him to do something, you're like, throw to, and I'm like, Dad, coach, Dad. Like, you know what I mean? Like I get mixed up. I'm like, but then I don't want to show favoritism because the other kids I'm doing the same stuff with.
No, of course. Yeah, exactly. You're trying to teach your own
tough.
kid, but then you're trying to teach the other kids both at the same time. So I actually a lot of times will have one of the assistant coaches take my son and work with him because sometimes he'll respond better to other parents than he will to me sometimes as well. So
yeah, I do the same. Yeah, we'll split the kids up. And I'm like, all right, you go over there, and then I'll go over here with the other kids.
I'm pretty sure I got some future MLB players on my team though.
There you go. Yeah, you can tell, dude. You can tell. There's like a handful of them that you're like, that kid, he's going to be good.
Yeah, special already.
Yeah.
He's got like that swing. They run faster and all that stuff. And then you can also see the like who's the bad kids.
Exactly.
Dude, kids are like,
you can see the talent. But, so my 4-year-old's he's always been a firecracker. He's always been the one that and I think will always be the one that's going to cause us a little bit of stress and anxiety. Yeah. And my 2-year-old just the sweetest little boy in the world. Like the easiest. So funny. Yeah. So he's just so easygoing, super lovable. But they're both my best friends. They're awesome.
Yeah. I'm on like the opposite. My 4-year-old's like the sweetest, and then my 2-year-old's like a bulldozer, just making the 4-year-old cry all the time. He's like laying on top of them.
I love
crazy stuff like that. But it's so funny how different they could be.
Yeah, the dynamic. But they're best friends, which is the best.
Same.
They're playing great, and then 3 seconds later they're both crying, and the next thing you know they're playing great again. But that's the brother dynamic.
Nice to have somebody to compete with all the time, and just a role model for the younger one. So that's awesome. And a PSA for the parents, because correct me if I'm wrong, for both of you. You both signed up to be assistant coaches and both wound up being head coaches, correct?
I think that's the lesson. Right?
Don't sign up to be an assistant if you don't want to coach at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
I signed up to be an assistant. Yeah, we talked about that, and then I got pushed to be head coach, and
they didn't even tell me. I just got the email. Congratulations, here's your roster. And the best part is, I don't even have an assistant coach, so it's like
me neither.
It's really I have some great parents on the team. Don't get me wrong.
It's like random moms who will help me. Yeah. Like I don't have a legit assistant coach, but mine, the guy sold me on it. I'm like, I'm busy with business and I travel a lot. He's like, oh, well, you set your own schedule. Like he had a rebuttal for every reason for me to not be. I'm like, all right, dude, I'll be the head coach.
So it's funny you say that though. That is one of the benefits, is the scheduling aspect of it.
I actually do like that. Yeah, because I'm going away this weekend. So I couldn't schedule a game, so I scheduled the game on Thursday. Yeah, you know what I mean. Whereas if I wasn't that coach, we just wouldn't go.
Right. Exactly.
We're away or whatever. So that is a good part. Yeah.
So let's go into the schooling part. So you're in employee benefits. You own your own company now. We'll jump to that in a minute. But did you always know you wanted to get into the benefits space? What did you go to school for? Lead us down that road a little bit.
I don't think anybody ever plans to get into benefits space. It's one of those industries that you kind of stumble upon. But then once you get in it, you're like, hey, this is amazing industry. I think I'm the picture perfect example of a late bloomer. I went to Paul VI High School. I was a decent student. I always smart, but I was more concerned about what's going on the weekends than this studying for tests and things of that nature.
Sure.
So
like most guys.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. So
growing up,
but I was a decent student. Probably B's. I went to Westchester University for a year. Probably partied a little bit too much there. So I transferred from Westchester to Rutgers Camden, bounced around there for a little bit, took a couple classes at actually Camden County College. So I took the scenic route to get my bachelor's degree. Probably took me about 8 years before I finally got it. And during that time, I was working in retail for both the Dollar Tree organization and Enterprise Rent-A-Car, different jobs. But then after a few years, I ended up going back to Rowan to get my MBA. It was more general business administration classes and things of that nature. Didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I did know that I eventually wanted to open and start my own business. Didn't necessarily know what the industry was when I started kind of my, academic journey, if you will. But yeah.
Now, I've heard a lot of amazing things about Enterprise's training models. How was that overall for you? Did you take a lot of things that you still use as practices, or was a lot of it like, I hate a lot of this and I'm not, if I go into business, this is going to be what I use to figure out what not to do.
Yeah. So, well, hopefully Enterprise isn't one of your sponsors here because
that'd be sick, but unfortunately they're not.
Not there yet.
I was there for about 2 years. And it was a job that I can't say that I really enjoyed. I was probably a little bit too old because of my kind of path in college. Enterprise does a really good job of recruiting, recruiting young professionals right out of college, training them up well, giving them kind of that professional environment where you have to wear a suit, you have to work hard. They create a lot of good work ethic. They do great training for sales and things of that nature, but it's a very high-paced, high-energy, high turnover organization, and it's designed to be that way because they have a great reputation for training good young sales professionals. So as much as I didn't love the job, it did a lot for, I think, myself personally and for my career, because that's actually what led me to employee benefits. So I actually got recruited into a training program to get into employee benefits because I was at Enterprise Rent-A-Car at the time. So they were targeting people that were at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So as much as I didn't love the job, I
like a stepping stone.
I appreciate my experience at Enterprise, and kind of how it led me to my career today.
Yeah. Now, where did you cut your teeth on the employee benefits side of things? Because I know you've worked for a couple of the big dogs. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm very lucky to say that I've worked for 3 employee benefits firms that I have great things to say about all 3 of them. So the first organization I worked with was a company called Complexities. So they're a pretty large boutique regional brokerage firm. And it was a great way to get involved. I got into employee benefits through a training program they had that they wanted people that had no employee benefits experience but had some professional, some sales experience, things of that nature, so they could train you on the benefits. Exactly. Yeah. So it was called the Blue Chip program, and was led by a lot of great people that I really appreciate what they've done to me. My mentor, that was my mentor at Corporate Synergies, is still my mentor today. So, nice. I still call him and pick his brains about a lot of things. So, great organization, great culture. I was there for about 7 years, and had some pretty early success, and really started to enjoy, kind of getting into the weeds with employee benefits and things of that nature.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Who were you? So who did you, switch over to after Corporate Synergies?
Yeah. So when I was there, that's when I was getting my MBA from Rowan. So I told myself at that time that after I get my MBA, I'm gonna test the market. I'm gonna see what else is out there. I'm gonna see what other opportunities are out there. As much as I liked Corporate Synergies, it's just something that I told myself. So, a lot of things happened at the time. It was right around the time that my firstborn son was born. So he was born, just got my MBA, and it was right around the time that COVID hit, actually, ironically, too. So I went to an organization, at the time it was called Tryon, but it was bought by Marsh McLennan. So, one of the largest, or if not the largest brokerage firm in the world. I did a lot of their public sector work. So I would work selling, municipalities, counties, school districts, things of that nature, all new business. Loved it there. Another great people, very, very sharp people, smart people there. When it became Marsh McLennan, it was a little bit too corporate for my, for my personality, for the way that I like to sell, like to operate.
There's probably more a lot of cold calling, that type of stuff, as opposed to relationship driven.
Well, since I was doing
metrics.
When I was doing public sector, it's very political. You're quite literally selling to politicians a lot of times. You're selling to the head of schools. Yeah. So, and it's very RFP driven. So you have to get the relationship. You have to do all the paperwork.
What do you mean by RFP?
So an RFP is a request for a proposal.
Okay. So you send in a proposal. They review them all. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay.
So and every year a lot of these organizations would go out to bid.
Shop it out.
So do the RFP.
Yep.
So my job would be to go out there and say, okay, or try to discover which one of these RFPs are actually a real RFP, or if it's just checking the box saying that we have to do that because it's part of our bylaws. So I want to build a relationship with somebody internally, say, hey, try to qualify. Is this a true opportunity? Because they're time intensive to respond to an RFP. Some of them are 50 pages long where we're, filling out information. So we had a whole proposal team. So my job would be to kind of uncover, are these a real opportunity? Is it worth responding to these RFPs?
Right.
And then if so, presenting, our organization at the time, Marsh McLennan, as one of the viable true options for them.
Yeah.
So, it would be talking to, whoever the lead politician is, whether it was a, council person, the CFOs within the counties, if it's school administrators and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So you're really trying to, build relationships with, sometimes 10, 15 people that are decision makers within the public sector, organization. So, and then we would do the RFP, go there, you hopefully get, invited back to be part of the shortlist where you get to do a whole presentation. And then, if you're lucky enough, you win the bid and you become the broker of record for that.
So, but that's an every year thing. So you'd have to, are they putting it out to bid usually the year after? From a renewal standpoint?
So it's all based off their bylaws. So,
okay.
so one organization might say every year we're going to send this to bid no matter what, even if we have no interest in changing our broker, changing our plans or anything like that. Just our bylaws are going to say we're going to do our due diligence every year. Some it might be every 3 years. Some might say we're going to do our due diligence every 3 years. So typically if you win the bid, if it's every 3 years or some are every 5 years.
You got it for 3.
You're going to have it for 3 to 5 years,
right.
Unless, there's a major mistake or something like that where they can, make the decision to do an additional RFP throughout the year.
Right.
But generally speaking, they go based off of those bylaws.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So they're rewarding once you get them. Because
big too, probably sure. Big deals.
They're nice size. They invest a lot of money. I mean, a lot of these are taxpayer money that they're investing into them, but they have very extensive, as you guys probably all know, like government workers, teachers, they all have great benefits. Great benefits. Yep. So as in terms of a client, they're very rewarding once you get them.
A lot of work to get them now.
But it's a lot of work to get them, and it's a lot of politics, and it's fun and exciting at first. But it gets real quick. Yeah, it gets real quick. Yeah.
And
real quick for the viewers, I want to make sure that you caught this because it's going to be, I'm going to kind of consolidate a lot of what was just said into an idea. And that was the idea of preparation. So, Jackson or John, whichever, and I'm going to call you John because I know that that's really your name. So, John, what you stated earlier was that you always had this fire that you wanted to be an entrepreneur. You didn't know what you wanted to do, so you started to prepare for it. You went through college, finished that. You got training from one of the largest companies in the world, and then you started working for larger companies and building these opportunities, getting different skill sets, putting that in. Also, when the opportunity presented itself that you could go out on your own, you were confident. You had this proven track record. You did all this work to prepare yourself to be ready and be confident for it. I think that's a lot of times what people don't do. They just expect opportunity to knock, and it's like, I'm ready, but it's like, are you? Did you do all the preparation to lead up to it? And then are you ready when opportunity knocks for work to answer the door? Because that's the other thing. I think people think, the door opened, awesome. Well, that's the start, right, is going through the door. But now is where all the real work starts. So let's transition that into, was there a moment or when were you like, all right, I'm done with all of these big corporations and working for all these other people. I really want to go all in on myself. Was it a single thing? Was it things that compounded
10 years ago?
Yeah, no, seriously.
I've been hearing it for 10 years.
Yeah. It's so funny, and I was actually going to say that because I'm sure both of you in this room,
since I've known you,
I've been saying, hey, I want to go out on my own. I want to go out on my own.
Yep.
And I'm sure a lot of people in both my personal and professional networks were tired of hearing that. Just go out on your own already. Just do it.
I said, just do it, dude.
Yeah. So I mean, it had to be realistically at least 5 years that I, had the plan to go out on my own. And I'll kind of talk about how kind of JPM Benefits started in a second. But I already had that plan. But I finally got to the point where, like you just said, I heard it for 10 years, for 5 years. I don't want to wait another 5 or 10 years and say, and still be saying that to people. And I should have done it 5 or 10 years ago. So I can say now, I should have did it 5 years ago. Well, I can't go back in time, but I can change that now. So that's why I ended up taking that leap is I don't want to continue waiting, continue saying it, take that leap. And it is a big leap of faith.
100%.
I always joke that my best sell of my career was selling my wife.
That was going to be my next question.
To do it.
Go with Lindsay.
That was it. It was convincing her, not even convincing her.
Well, I'm sure if I've heard it as much as I did, I'm sure she heard it probably quadruple the amount of times. Actually, probably more, 10 times the amount of times.
And I'm very lucky. I have an amazing wife. I love her to death. she's like, listen, this is scary. She's like, I don't love it. I can't say that I love it, but I believe in you. And, let's do this. Let's do it. So she's in it with me. And
yeah, you need that.
I always joke that like literally 20 times throughout the day, you go from being very excited to be very stressed and very excited to very stressed. And
that's the fun part.
That is the fun part.
That's the fun part.
The journey always.
Yeah. So, but it's very rewarding. But, so, I just didn't want to have to wait 5-10 years from now and then still be saying that same conversation that like I should go do this and go out on my own. I was lucky that I did start JPM Benefits though as a side business, if you will. It was really a small group solution for employee benefits programs. So doing the group health, the dental, vision, group life, disability. The what's called worksite plans like hospital indemnity plans and accident plans and things of that nature. So I'd already built the platform of JPM Benefits, and I had a couple small groups already kind of operating on that. So I already had a little bit of a runway to jump into it as well. So it wasn't like, hey, I'm quitting my job and now I have to start all this, the whole foundation of the company. The foundation of the company was already built, and now it's just a matter of putting 100% of my efforts into growing it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And for folks who don't know a lot about the benefits space, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but a lot of the companies that John was previously mentioning he worked for, they're going for the larger groups. So they typically like to see like 50 lives on a plan, which usually means you need 75 to 100 employees to capture those 50 lives for the people who are going to get in. So, John was out there meeting all these other businesses that maybe only had 5 employees or had 10 employees. And the company he worked with didn't really want anything to do with those. So he saw the need. He had the knowledge and the information to help them. So that's where this other thing was spawned from originally.
Yeah, no, that's 100% right. So, I mean, the 3 organizations that I previously mentioned all wanted to concentrate on the larger groups. And rightfully so. The larger groups, there's more more money, there's more margin and everything like that. But, you guys both know me. I do a lot of networking. I'm out there. And a lot of people know me as the employee benefits guy.
Yeah.
And I'm a very relationship-driven person. I want to, and I'm one that wants to help everybody. Mm-hmm. So you'd get these startup organizations or small businesses, 5-6 employees that were looking to start up a plan. And, my firms just, it just didn't make sense for them organizationally to take on groups that size. So that's where JPM Benefits kind of came from, because most employee benefits organizations and insurance firms and brokerage firms, they don't necessarily want those small groups. So the small groups don't really know where to turn, and they typically will go, they'll either get bad advice or don't see the full picture of the potential options that are available. And I think that's really what it comes down to. Maybe not poor advice, but getting, the full picture of all these things that are available to these small organizations. And that's what I like to show them is, there is multiple funding options. There's multiple carriers. There's multiple plan designs that we can choose from. And, what's the right fit for that organization?
Yeah. I love that. So let's jump, I guess we'll go on to the actual individual side first. So what are some maybe things people get wrong about employee benefits as the employee, or what's something that maybe people should look for when they're looking at plans and they're trying to differentiate offers that their business has? Any insight that you can give folks? Because I know I'm always confused about it, and I'm the partner in my company, and I don't understand half the stuff I pay for. I just know it's there, right? It's in case something happens, I have this coverage, but I don't really know the ins and outs of it all too much.
I think that's a great question. So I would say, first off, I don't think that employees truly appreciate what these businesses are trying to accomplish for the employees. There's a lot that goes into it, in terms of just, hours spent, going through all these different plans, all these different programs, the dollars that are invested in there. A lot of employees don't realize how much that employers are actually contributing for their insurance. So I think, unfortunately, we as Americans, we take it for granted that our employers are giving us health insurance, and we just expect a certain amount. I also think that the individual employees, sometimes don't pick the best plan. What I see happen, and it drives me absolutely crazy, is people just picking the most expensive plan that's available to them because I think that's the best coverage. That's one of the things that I try to explain to people when I see a very high cost plan that you're paying a lot of money on a monthly basis. And I want to try to uncover how much are you actually using for this, because I would say if you're a very low utilizer of a plan, why do you really need a very expensive plan? Because you're just wasting all those premium dollars, month after month. If you're a super high utilizer of the plan and you're going to hit your max amount of pocket, probably regardless, I would say then again, why do you want the most expensive plan? Because if you're going to get to your max amount of pocket anyway through co-pays and co-insurance and things of that nature, take the guaranteed savings of the premium and find the right plan. Now, some people it does make sense to have the richest plan, but I think that's what some people just they just say, hey, this is the most expensive, I'm going to take this. And then the opposite you see happen too is like, I just want the cheapest plan just to make sure I'm covered.
Yeah.
Well, how often do you use it? Well, I take these medications, I take this, and I say, okay, well, you're saving all this money on premiums, but then you're just putting it right back into the plan, with prescription drugs, with doctor's office visits, with all these different things. So I think the idea is that really want to try to find out a program, a plan that makes the most sense for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also think there's a lot of things within plans that people aren't taking advantage of. Preventative care is always covered at 100%. Nobody's taking care I wouldn't say nobody. A lot of people aren't taking advantage of preventative care being covered at 100%. First off, it gives you that clean bill of health at the beginning or end of every year. So if nothing else, check that you're healthy.
Yeah.
But I think the most important part is, what if there is something wrong? So preventative care is designed to find things within your body that might be wrong before they become a much more serious issue. And I'll just use cancer as an example. I know that's one of the most extremes, but if you're already feeling symptoms for cancer, you're at a stage 3 or stage 4 probably. So if you go get your preventative care, get your blood work, hopefully you catch a cancer in a stage 1. Mm-hmm. It's much more treatable. Obviously, I my job is essentially, healthcare on the finance side, but it's going to be a lot cheaper to treat a stage 1 compared to a stage 3 or stage 4. But more importantly, you're going to potentially save lives and have much better quality of life. You get your annual blood work done. Go there, you find out that you have high cholesterol. It's an easy fix to get on the cholesterol medication. If it goes undetected, it's going to cause heart conditions and a ton of other conditions and issues. So, preventative care I think is one of those most underutilized parts of planning. Another thing is just Tyler, we were both talking about, we have kids, everybody's always sick, right? Telemedicine is one of the easiest things to use when you're sick, when kids are sick. You don't have to go to urgent care. You don't have to make an appointment for your primary care doctor. You can quite literally go on your phone now and schedule a visit with a telemedicine doctor and figure out what's wrong. They can send a prescription right to your pharmacy and you go pick it up. Yeah. So those are like the basic things that I think that a lot of people just don't take advantage of that are know within their plan. And every plan has a ton of these types of like little things that are embedded in them. Yeah. So everyone's a little bit different, but I think it comes to education really at the end of the day. Yeah,
I was just going to say it's education's one thing, but it's awesome too that because my business is similar to yours, obviously insurance, right? And I think it's awesome that you educate people on that, and you're not just like what I see in my industry is they'll just sell the highest premium because you get a commission on the premium, right? So, and that's actually what made us kind of create our insurance agency because, we have our sister companies that do the flood mitigation products. And those products save people money off their flood insurance. But I couldn't get insurance agents to pitch it to their clients because it would drastically reduce their insurance. Mm-hmm. And the insurance agent's getting, a commission off the premium. Why would they cut it into, 3/4 what they're getting right now? So I think, it's awesome that you look at that type of stuff and you'll tell the person like, hey, you're paying this much. You're not even using it that much. Why don't you use a lower plan? And I think that what I've seen with my business is that leads to more business. Like it's so short-sighted to maybe get like 300, 400, 500, whatever the dollar amount is, right? But, get a little more money just say from that person as opposed to Jackson showed me all this stuff about my plan. He even saved me money because he told me I didn't even need that. That person's going to send you, all of their network over to you. And instead of getting, an extra couple $100 off that one dude, now you're getting 7 new plans that are, 20 times what that would be.
100%. I mean, I think, your credibility is key, and like I said, I'm very relationship driven. So, doing that is, I think, a very short-sighted way to look at things.
Yeah.
I want to do what's right for, the employer, the employees, the individuals. And typically you can save money. I almost always can save employers money. But I think that's how you build the trust. And I want long-term relationships.
Yep.
So could I go in there and sell somebody a plan and make a few extra dollars? Of course, we can all go sell somebody something that they don't necessarily need and make a few extra dollars. I'd rather build that relationship. I want to be that broker where people have I've been with that client for 30 years, and if another broker or somebody else came in the door, like they wouldn't even think twice. Away. Exactly. Yeah. You're at, my guy Jackson
looks out for me.
Yep. He looks out for my employees. He does the right thing. But what I even do wherever I can, if the carriers allow, is I can prevent that from even being an issue where I'll do like a PEPM fee. So it doesn't matter how much that the employers are paying. It's the same amount of money are locked in, or I do a fixed rate or a fee for service. So I actually try to systematically prevent that from actually even being, because if it's not me, I'm building a firm. I'm going to, I have salespeople now. I don't want my salespeople being incentivized because somebody, is paying more money for their insurance.
Right.
So I think that is a little bit of an issue with our industry a little bit where, hey, if one of my clients has a 30% increase, that means that I get a 30% raise. So I've done a poor job, and I haven't been able to mitigate their costs, but I'm making 30% more. I just don't.
You get rewarded for it. It's crazy. Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree.
So I actually like kind of carving it out, either doing a fee for service or doing a per employee,
like a broker type fee or something like that. Yeah.
And and I feel like that just takes away any possibility of there being any kind of steerage to a certain plan or anything like that.
Right. Now, is that something you would discuss with the client? Yeah. Like that's like a selling tool, right? Like, hey, I'm just going to do it as a broker fee, or whatever in your industry it's called, but I'm going to do this broker fee. The reason why, and like, will you tell them straight up that's the reason why I'm doing it, is because any of your increases, like I'm not getting a bonus on, or you know what I mean, like that type of thing.
Yeah, I think it's that kind of transparency.
Yeah,
it's why are we doing these things?
Like I tell people, same thing.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not saying I'm not carving out money. I'm to undercut myself. Like, we will build in the fees that I think are fair, responsible.
Yep.
But I also want to make sure it's fair for both parties.
Yeah.
The work that we're putting in and everything like that. So yeah. So it all depends on the carriers if they allow it to. So there's fully insured, there's self-insured, there's all these different funding mechanisms that are out there, and there's a ton of different carriers and TPA services that all allow different things. But it's all, it's always transparent. I always make sure that they know, what our fees are going to be and what theirs are.
Right.
But yeah, quite literally, there's a couple that, I was making a percentage of premium off of one group that was about 1,000 employees. And so that was the first time, and they got, I think it was like a 17% increase. And and it would have been, it would have been a lot of money for JPM's organization. But it was so much money, it didn't make sense to charge them that based off of the services that I was providing to them.
Yeah.
So I quite literally said, hey, let's cap this for you because, it's going to be better for you in the long run. Mm-hmm. And then so going forward, we kind of just adopted that model where we're going to cap this so that nobody's ever going to be incentivized to sell into a plan that just because it's more expensive.
Right. Yeah, you become the credible expert. I mean, there's nothing worse. Sometimes it's enjoyable, but sometimes I feel bad when you're going into a client and you're like, man, we're not only going to save you a ton of money, but there's also all these things you're paying for that you don't need at all. And it's like, and that's what happens when you have the salesman first, right? Yep. It's like, then it exposes you is that you truly did what was best for you, not for them.
Yep.
And that's, people just want to know you care.
That's it.
Right. And that's exactly what you're doing.
One of my biggest compliments from one of my clients was, hey, we like working with you because you're genuine. Mm-hmm. We believe you. We trust you. And that's the key. I mean, unfortunately, insurance does have a reputation of not being genuine, trustworthy industry.
Yep.
So that's what, one of the things I think we're battling is a lot of these, CFOs, business owners, HR professionals have been burnt by, unethical professionals.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, I think that's one of the things that I think people see that like relatively early on with just our transparency, where we literally we roll out like, everything that's available to them, everything on the table. Transparency, I think, is the key, like I had mentioned before.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, you don't have to take my word for it, here it all is. Like, here's the dollars and cents of it all right here.
Yeah. Now I know, speaking on the employer side, I know you like to educate a lot of people on the self-insured plans.
Mm-hmm.
So can you, for the audience, explain what those are, some of the pros and cons, maybe for anybody who's not familiar with them?
Yeah. So, again, going to just, we were talking about the education on the employee side.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the business owners, the CFOs, the HR professionals, they're not educated in all the different programs that are available.
Mm-hmm.
So, employees will sit there and not realize why you have Aetna or Cigna, healthcare. By the time you're choosing plan design and carriers and things like that, there's already been so much that has been done probably. So the first thing you want to do is figure out what should the right funding model be. And like you just said, so there's fully insured, which is kind of what most people think about with insurance. You're paying a carrier money to transfer the risk. They take the risk. And then here's your premiums and everything like that. So there's a fully insured world. There's the self-insured world, but there's a million different types of self-insured products. So level funded is a very hot, hot topic, hot concept out there in the market right now. So level funding is a form of self-funding, but it looks and feels like fully insured. So there's a lot of additional benefits where you're taking on a little bit of risk in terms of like the claims dollars that you're spending out, but you still have stop loss insurance built out. But it's level funding, so your premiums are level, where meaning you pay the same amount every month. Where traditional self-insurance in the past has always been you pay the claims as they come in. So there's a lot of volatility with those types of things. So what we do is we kind of go down a list of what are the right funding mechanisms. Fully insured is a version of self-insured, a right fit. Level funded. I'm really big into these programs that are called captives and consortium models, where you're essentially sharing in the risk with other organizations. So those have been a really great cost containment strategy that I've been working with a lot. And then if you get a little bit larger and you have a good risk pool, your employees are healthy, then you would probably consider more of a traditional self-insured model, still with some stop loss insurance to protect you from like the really high claimants and things of that nature. But you want to find out first what is the right funding model, and that's what we would do is we go in there, we kind of take a look at what is your demographics of your organization, what's the average age, male, female driven. What medications are your employees on? What health conditions do they potentially have? And that'll start giving us an idea of what is, the right funding model for them. If there is a lot of high claimants and a lot of high cost drugs, maybe the fully insured model is the right model for them. Maybe you want to transfer that risk because you're going to be spending a lot of money in claims. If you're kind of moderate, you're somewhere in the middle. Level funding is more designed for like the smaller groups for self-insurance. These programs, when they first were rolled out, were great. People were saving a lot of money. Where you're taking on a kind of a claim, a large claims pool. So just give you an idea of what level funding is. So there's medical underwriting that goes on. And they come up with an expected claims amount of money. So they say, hey, this is the amount of money that we think you're going to pay in a given year for claims. Then then you pay for stop loss insurance to protect that bucket of money if you ever go through that, anything over. So there's usually specific and aggregate stop loss insurance amounts. So each person, has a specific amount where it might be $20,000. If one person goes over $20,000 in medical expenses, a stop loss insurance claim is filled. And then a group will have an aggregate amount. So even if no one individual goes over $20,000, the group might have $100,000. In the claims pool or, in the aggregate stop loss limit. If the group goes over $100,000, then a stop loss claim will be filled. So that's what protects you from, ever having to pay more than what's in that stop loss bucket. And then kind of the third bucket is running out a network, so administrative costs and things like that. So if you run out Aetna or Cigna's network, United Healthcare. So you kind of add those three buckets up. You divide it by, you add it up. That's your annual cost. Divided by 12. That's your monthly fee.
Gotcha.
The problem with those is now a lot of level funding plans. The claims bucket has gotten so small that you're only paying, maybe 10 or 20% in the claims bucket, and the stop loss insurance that you're purchasing, the premiums have gotten so high on that. So it kind of starts feeling more like fully insured. So a lot of the benefits that you were getting from these, level funded programs initially aren't there anymore because you're just paying for all this additional insurance. I always joke, if you want to pay, you want to reduce your insurance costs, buy less insurance. So that's why I kind of move them to one of these other consortium or captive models where you're just basically taking on more of that upfront risk. So your claims bucket, we want to make that claims bucket as large as we possibly can, and then pay less for that stop loss insurance.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then so you're paying less for it because you're taking on more risk. And then the additional benefit of that too is with the stop loss insurance, with these types of programs, you're combining with other organizations. So then you're also getting the buying power of that stop loss insurance because you're combining it with other organizations.
Right.
It's a good breakdown. Do you think most people, I would assume, don't really think about that?
Because I would assume don't even know. Yeah, most people don't know. So I think what happens a lot of times is people go into one of these level funded arrangements because it's going to save them money. You know, they're like, hey, it's cheaper, and hey, you can get a little bit of this claims money left at the end of the year. So one of the things I kind of left out with the level funding is at the end of the year, if there's any money left over in that claims bucket, typical contracts are designed where you get 50% of that back at the end of the year.
Oh, okay. So it's not all lost then.
Benefit. Okay. No, exactly. So that's an additional benefit of one of those types of programs. So that being said, you know, there's a lot of, you know, people go to those types of programs because of the savings and then the potential of the additional savings.
Yeah.
Because those claims funds are so low in those types of products, almost nobody gets any money back at the end of the year. It's very rare that they're getting it back. So my goal is to create a program where obviously we want to save you money up front. I mean, no one's going to pay more money, you know, for these other programs. So can I save you more money up front by increasing, you know, the claims bucket for you, paying less for the stop loss insurance? But I also want there to be an opportunity to actually get some of those claims dollars back. So it's really just, you know, they're just not being underwritten properly. So when I go into an organization, I'll show them if they're in one of these level funded programs, hey, like this is great that you save money, but this is the potential right here of why we could really, you know, revamp this program, save you a lot of additional money, and then structure it the right way.
Yeah. So this is why it's so important to have good experts on your side, folks, because you don't know the questions to ask, right? And a lot of times, some businesses might not even really know the full demographic, right? Just for blanket statements, it sounds like if you have kind of people all over from 18 to 80, you know, maybe the fully insured is more because you don't really know what you're getting. The self-insured sounds like, you know, maybe younger staff. Yeah, you have people that are just healthy in general that aren't going to like use it a ton. Like I'm probably an example of that. Like outside of, you know, my 87 kids, they use.
I was gonna say, wait a minute,
but me, just me as the individual.
You're the family plan, bro.
Because I'm definitely the one that doesn't do the preventative stuff every year like I should. Like I just started doing the blood work and stuff. And even going back to that, ironically, as you were saying that, I had a friend recently, I think that we all know actually, and he got diagnosed with a cancer. It was just he was doing preventative stuff. Thankfully, it was caught very early, to your point. He got a surgery. They removed it. Yeah. And
every time I hear this, you told me, remember with the preventive, I can get my blood work done.
Dude, I have to get the blood work done.
That's the perfect example of
I know. I hear that.
And now he's like cancer free, like he's good to go. And now he's a big proponent. Like he's like, especially like once you're getting like closer to 45. Like,
well, that's what I said.
Yeah, I mean, you're still super young.
I'm like,
but even for
30s,
you to like
dude,
get your blood work done to like know like nutrition wise, like maybe your body's allergic to something you're eating all the time, or maybe you lack. You're
everybody's allergic to gluten, and
or even what you're deficient in. Like you might feel like you're crushed. I know you're not deficient in protein, but like maybe vitamin B. You know, you could use a little bit more of that in your life. You know,
maybe.
But again, to circle back to the point, got off topic there, is it's important to have experts that understand, right? Not just somebody who knows some things are going to sell you, but people who understand the scope. They ask deeper questions in your business. They try to figure out what's the goal. Because maybe your goal is just to have the best plan, right? And like you can't help that. But most people's goal is going to be, you know, from a business owner's perspective, is it's going to be the best plan for my people at the best cost. Yeah. And that sounds like that's what you're trying to figure out is like, how do we leverage so everybody's taken care of, but we're not overpaying for everybody to be taken care of.
Yeah. Yep. So, you know, I think you kind of to summarize that is like, I definitely got way too deep into the weeds right now for this conversation, you know, but I think the key is we're taking something that's very complex and yes, we have to find the best solution, but we also want to make it easy for understandable and palatable for the organization, for the, you know, the employee, the CFO and the HR person to even make a decision on what the right plan is.
Right.
So, you know, a lot of this stuff is done behind the scenes and we put it all together and then we, you know, show them, and educate them. Here's all the different funding models.
Yep.
Most of our, you know, due diligence, these are the ones that we think is the right funding model for you.
Right.
Then from there, we pick the right carrier. And who's the right carrier? Is it, this is where we think you should be in a funding atmosphere. Does Aetna, does Cigna, what doctors, hospitals are your employees seeing? And then you build the plan designs and deductibles and everything like that. Cool. So you want to take something very complex, make it very simple, and then educate and over-educate how to use it. Because it doesn't matter how great we can do of a job of all those other things. If your employees don't understand how to utilize these types of programs, they're not going to value it. You know, so I think at the end of the day that's the key is, there's a lot going into decision making, and that's great once we decide on that. But if it's 5 people in the room that came up with that decision, now we have to make sure that your whole staff understands why we came to that decision and how to best utilize these types of programs. And I think that's the key, So
So I was going to say, it sounded like you were going to jump in. I was going to switch subject. So I want to jump into the entrepreneurial side of things. So that was a great breakdown of the benefits. Obviously going all in on your own business is something newer. So 2-part question. 1, tell me what has been one of the biggest challenges you faced with going all in on yourself. And then 2, what's been one of the most rewarding parts?
Yeah. So, I think one of the biggest challenges is, I am typical, I'm a sales guy by nature. So typical sales guy, ADD, visionary. I want to grow, and I want to grow super fast. So I think the most challenging part for me is kind of slowing down and making sure all the operational stuff is in place. But at the same time, I got very lucky with getting good people on my team very early on. So I strategically hired the people that are very good at the things that I'm not very good at. So I kind of have them tasked to do the operational stuff and build out the foundation and build out all of these things that I just don't necessarily enjoy. Like, that's really what it comes down to at the time. It's all about time management. You spend time on the things you enjoy. I enjoy growing the business and selling and doing the strategy and things of that nature. So I think the biggest challenge is slowing down to make sure things are done right instead of having to go back later on and fix these things. Yeah. So I kind of slowed down, make sure things were done right, hired the right people to put in place to make sure that they're going to be done properly on an ongoing basis.
So interesting. You said I literally had this conversation with my barber today, which is very ironic.
Always good.
Barber talk. We have the best conversation. Shout out to Ratana Electric Barber Company. But he's hardcore OCD. When I tell you, like, finishing up the lineup, I was like, brother, it looks good. He's like, no, it's not good yet. But that's his whole thing. It was like, their shop is like immaculate. Like, and he's like, dude, it takes so much less time to do it right the first time.
Yeah.
Than like constantly going back, and then you have lower energy, and then you're just like, you put it off. Absolutely. And you're absolutely, in the operations, that's what we found on the payroll side as well. Like, that's the business. Yep. Like, sales is the growth, right? And that's what affords everything. But like, if the main wheel doesn't work, the car ain't going to drive, right? It doesn't matter how much jet fuel you have in that thing. You got to have the foundation, right? And the ops is the foundation of every business.
If you don't do it now, you're going to have to do it later, and it's going to cost more time and more money.
Fixing on the go is while you're trying, you got this vision, and you're like, oh shit, I got to keep going back to square one. But I'm on 5, but I got to go to 1 and 2 again.
Yep.
So now, what has been the most rewarding part?
It's funny. I think the most rewarding part is seeing the people that have joined me believe in the mission. Like, I had this vision. I started growing JPM Benefits, and my clients, were behind me. And then I got a couple people to join the team, and I think the most rewarding part is seeing the team really come together and working so well together, both on a service and sales side. Everything seems to just really be clicking right now on all sides. And I got some really great people that joined a startup organization, if you will, that could have took positions at much, much larger firms and came from much, much larger firms to join a smaller organization. So, the most rewarding part is that these people believe, in me and believe in the mission of JPM Benefits and what we're looking to do and really changing to kind of the employee benefits game and making sure that these employers do have, the full picture of everything, and that we're building the relationship, and we know not just the business owners and things of that nature, but we want to have a relationship with each individual employee. We want them to know who to call when they're having trouble getting a prescription filled, or they're at the hospital and they're saying, hey, you're not going to be covered for this. It's a very, emotional, both physically, mentally, emotionally situation, and we want to have the relationship. So the team that we built cares, and I think that's really the most rewarding part, is having the team clicking well, really caring, all kind of sharing in the same mission.
That's awesome.
Love that, brother. That was a good one.
Yeah, it was good.
Now, I think we're almost to the end. So Tyler usually has a question to wrap this up with.
I do. So Jackson or John, whatever you want to go by, Jackson. So give us maybe a little hurdle that you faced early on in your life, or a mistake, or just a problem that you kind of worked through prior, to starting the business and everything, or maybe even now, but something that, kind of gave you a hiccup, but you look back and you're like, thank God that happened, because I learned, this from it.
Man, that's a tough question.
We get that every time.
Yeah. It's one of those we should probably start telling people ahead of time. That's going to be the final question.
No, I like it. I think it kind of goes back to, the challenge question a little bit. Is I think I was starting to kind of grow too fast without having the infrastructure and the employees behind me to kind of really do the day-to-day work. So what was happening is I was doing a very good job still of like managing the client on the administrative side, on the strategy with the owners, the CFO, and the HR. But then the employees having issues, I just ran out of time. I didn't have the capacity to help all these individuals, which I'm saying I want to do, and that hey, I'm going to help everybody and everything like that. So I think my heart was in the right spot, but I was just going and kind of growing too fast and taking on more clients, and that made me kind of step back, and I had a couple of people reach out and say, hey, you haven't gotten back to me, and I had to call you 2 or 3 times. And that's the stuff that kills me. Like those are the things that I take that stuff very to heart and don't take it lightly. So I think making sure that we're growing and growing the staff and growing the platform as the business is growing simultaneously, and not kind of
figure it out as you go.
Growing too fast and not having the infrastructure behind it. So I think that's the key, is making sure that I have all the players in place, I have the platform in place, so that never happens again, where somebody's saying, hey, I wasn't able to get in touch with you when I had a problem.
Right.
Because that's exactly what I'm trying to fix.
Selling.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's the old cliche adage, right? You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together.
Boom.
And you can only grow through people. So it is truly, because we all have superpowers. And I'm the same as you. I am not great at like handling a lot of the back end stuff. Like I'm the front man. I can talk to anybody. I can explain and educate things to you. I'm not going to hard sell you. I'm just going to give you all the info you need to make the decision. But I have way smarter people, that can solve more problems on the back end for me. And that's what they're all here for. That's what the team's built on.
And
right?
the key is to identifying that, identifying your strengths and weaknesses, and trying to, if instead of working, I'm a big believer, instead of working on your weaknesses, work on your strengths.
Yeah, double down.
And then exactly, and then
fill the weaknesses.
Fill in the you don't ignore them, but bring in people that your weaknesses are their strengths.
Yep.
And then
100%.
I think that's the key to a good organization.
Yeah. For the business owners out there, that means dropping your ego. We are not the best at everything. You think you are for a while when you're the only person doing it. You feel like you're the best at it. But then you see somebody else who's been doing it for years, and you realize, wow, I suck at that. And I've had that conversation with myself quite a few times. Beauty of being a lineman, you always know that, you're just part of the game plan. You're not the king, you're not the queen, none of those things. Yeah. So that was an awesome conversation, though. Jackson, John. We appreciate you being here today.
I had some fun.
And friends, if you have questions about benefits, obviously John would love to have conversations. You can see his passion about it. So how can folks connect with you if they need to reach out?
Yeah, so visit our website, jpmbenefitservices.com. Also you can reach out on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm on there as Jackson Milne on those platforms.
Freaking Jackson, of course you are.
I might even be on John Jackson.
No, I think
Milne,
it's Jackson.
something.
Yeah. It is. I'm pretty sure.
I love it. Well, viewers, we hope you had as good a time as we did today.
Yep.
Thanks for being here with us. And as always, have the best day ever.
Best day ever, fam. Pound that like button.
Subscribe, do all the things.